Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today I'm taking a look at this, the F8F-1B Bearcat in 1/48 scale from HobbyBoss. So join me as I take a look inside the box and see what this kit is like. So starting off on the outside of the box, we've got this image of a French Bearcat being prepared for a mission of some sort, with the ground crew standing on the wing and the pilot in the cockpit. We have up here some information about the length, which is 178.8 millimeters, and the wingspan of 225 millimeters. Down here, bottom left, we do have a little disclaimer that says what is included in the box may be different from what's illustrated. So let's hope that's not necessarily the case. Onto the long thin edge then, we've got some information that I can't read for, unfortunately, but over here we do have an image of the paint scheme that's included, which is a French Air Force aircraft from 1954. It does tell us here that this was made in China and a copyright date of 2017, but naturally do take copyright dates with a pinch of salt, as they may not be 100% accurate. Over on this side, we have an image of another paint scheme that is included. This one is of a Thai Air Force example. And then we have some information in English about the actual F8F Bearcat. We have a little more information just over here. In particular, this product is not a toy and an age rating of 14 plus. And here we have an item code of 80357. The thin edges of the box feature the same information that we've already seen, so there's nothing additional, and the rear of the box is blank. So let's get inside and see what we have. And as is quite typical, I'll start with the instructions. So on the outside of the instructions, you can see they're printed in black and white, but we do have information in multiple languages on the front page. In particular, we do have some information about assembling the model and a key to the different symbols that we will see, as well as the decal usage down the bottom. Turn over the page and we are met with a sprue map, which is super helpful because it helps tell us where everything is, and it also indicates to us that there are two little sheets of decals included and there is an unused part list down the bottom, just so if you get to the end of the build you know that some bits are meant to be left over. As we come into the steps then, the steps look to be pretty easy to follow. Each part is labeled as appropriate and has been given a paint color. It looks like they've been given Mr. Hobby paint colors, but they also have just given you a name as well, so you could pick your own thing. There are some decals which need to go onto our internal cockpit control panel. So we assemble our various elements of our cockpit, and then we move on to the inside of the fuselage. It looks like there's an engine exhaust or something which needs to go on the inside here and protrudes through. Flip over to step 2 and we add our cockpit assembly inside of the aircraft. There is a tail wheel assembly and an arrestor hook which we add at the back of the aircraft, and then we come down to our engine assembly. So these steps are a little bit cluttered, but they're quite nicely spread out so that you can follow what you're doing. So the engine consists of a number of components which are joined together. After the fuselage is joined, these are glued in. There are some more details which need to go onto the sort of cockpit area after assembly of the fuselage, and they look like the reflector gun sight and perhaps part of the headrest there. Step 3, we are met with our wing installation. So there are cannon barrels that need to go inside the wing, but we do have a choice at this point. If we want to have our wings folded, as it was a naval aircraft, it could fold its wings. You will have to do a bit of modification to cut and then use the included parts to replicate the folded wingtip. Alternatively, if we turn over the page, if you don't want to fold your wingtips, and I probably won't be doing, these are the assembly instructions here. After this point, we have our engine cowling, which consists of what looks like two parts with an extra bit that goes together. That is added onto the model, as is the canopy. It comes in two parts. It doesn't show you that you could have your canopy open here, but I imagine just sliding that back and gluing it in a little further back would be suitable. We then come on to our undercarriage, and it looks to be a fairly simple assembly as well, with the landing gear leg being joined to the wheel and then that going onto the cover. These landing gear components are then installed onto the bottom of the aircraft along with the prop. It doesn't make indication that the landing gear can be displayed in a raised position, but I imagine with a little modification that would be possible. In particular, I think these covers just glued in may be a solution. However, as we've probably noticed, there's no pilot figure included, so having this aircraft flying may require sourcing a spare pilot figure. And then we come to the final parts, which look like the inclusion of rockets, 2 bombs, and also a drop tank, which are assembled in simple parts as well. So those are the instructions. Pretty easy to follow, fairly simple, not bad. We do have our painting instructions, and these are printed in full colour, which I love to see. So as mentioned, we've got a French paint scheme, and we do have colour callouts down the bottom here, but they've also given us some different brands of paint as well. But as you can see, they haven't got a conversion for some of them. So you may have to pick and choose. But generally, overall, this version, this is the French one, looks pretty nice, pretty clean and simple. And then we flip over, and the Thai version is pretty much the same. The only difference I think really with the Thai one is that they've got these sort of artwork on the side there. I do think that I'm going to go for the French version. So yeah, painting instructions, pretty decent, printed in colour. And then we come on to our decals. HobbyBoss are pretty good at packaging their kits. So the decal sheets have come with their protective paper, sticky tape to the top, which I've just trimmed. So we have one sheet here, which is our sort of side art for our Thai version. Printing on that is pretty decent. I haven't used HobbyBoss decals in a while, but they look to be pretty good. Perhaps the printing, the film is a little thick, but yeah, they look to be okay. Printing is pretty nice, it's to a good standard. However, I don't think that they're silk screen printed, as you can see tiny little dots, potentially from a laser jet or an inkjet, but not a problem if you're viewing from a normal distance. Next one then are the main sheet. So these ones down here are our common decals, and then up here we have the rest for the paint schemes, and on the whole looking pretty good. The registration is good, so that's where all the colors line up nice and neatly. Nothing seems to be particularly off center. There are some slight little waviness where the sort of roundels colors meet, their edges aren't quite as crisp, and there is a slightly weird sort of sheen to the surface. They have like I think you'll pick that up in the light. It's almost like a bit of a mottling kind of between glossy and satin, but I don't think that'll detract from them being applied. So yeah, they look pretty good, they look okay. The clear film is maybe a little bit thick and does extend around the outside of some of the transfers a little bit, but yeah, I don't think we'll have any problems with those. At least I hope. I think the last time I built a HobbyBoss kit was a few years ago, and I remember the decals going on okay. So hopefully that is the case, but they look to be okay. And that brings us to the plastic parts. So HobbyBoss, again, have done a pretty good job of packaging this. On this side, in this little sort of sub carton, we've got our clear parts, which have got additional wrap around them, but everything comes in its own little bag. So what I'm going to do is open all the bags, and then we'll get into it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, call it 5 grey plastic sprues and 2 clear ones. So we'll have a look at the clear ones as usual first. So on here we have our front windscreen, and you can see we've got some little rivet details on the front edge there. There is a tiny little bit of flash in a couple of places, but the plastic is very nice. It's quite clear. Perhaps the light is a little distorted going through it, but there doesn't seem to be much in the way of scratches or blemishes, so that's really nice. The plastic parts are molded to a good quality. And here we have, I think that's part of the reflector gun sight and our control panels. And then the next one is our overall canopy. And unfortunately, there is a mold seam down the middle. I think you can pick that out. That's a bit of a shame. I don't often see a mold seam down the middle. You can feel that. I may not address that, but I know the particularly concerned modelers may want to polish that out. I don't think I've got anything fine enough to polish that, and that would require more purchasing. But yeah, so there is a mold seam down the center, which is a little bit of a shame. I don't know if that was prototypical, so if that was real in real life, there actually was a mold seam down the center of the clear canopy, then great. But if not, yeah, that shouldn't be there. There is a small little bit of flash on here as well, but other than that, other than those issues, yeah, the clear parts are pretty good. On this one here, we have our engine cowling. We have recess details, and we have some sort of rivet details on there as well. There is a little bit of flash around the outside there, which we just need a little bit of cleanup, but that's not that's not too bad. Plastic is fairly dense, but not particularly greasy. On here we have our upper wing surfaces, and these are pretty nice. We have, it's fairly dense plastic, again, not particularly greasy, but we have some very nice recessed and raised details, and we have some nice surface details. So there's little rivets along the panel lines. So yeah, that's pretty nice. On the inside, you can see ejector pin marks are on the inside, but they haven't protruded through onto the other side, so that's good. On this one, we have our fuselage halves, and we can see again the detail level is pretty good. We've got some recessed and raised details along with rivets, a little bit of flash in a few select places which may need a little cleanup, but generally the molding is pretty crisp. Our sort of bulkheads, we've got little wire details, we've got more of our control panel. You can see we've got other little rivet details on various things, control panels, and some more wiring on the, I think that's cockpit floor. Our other fuselage half there, again, same kind of deal, looks pretty decent. On the inside, there's no detail on the inside walls, but I think the cockpit sort of build up may feature elements of that, so it doesn't detract. The next one, this has our propeller, again molded to a good quality. Landing gear legs, maybe a little chunky, but they're pretty good. We have our wheels here. A tiny little mold seam down the edge, but nothing too worrying. Generally quite crisp again, a tiny little bit of flash in a few places that might need a little bit of cleaning up, but on the whole, pretty nice. We've got our drop tanks and rockets. It doesn't look to be an overly complicated model to build. The ejector pin marks are mostly on not detail surfaces. There are some on these surfaces, which hopefully you won't see, and they are actually on the insides. But I guess when we come to build, we'll see if that's the case. And then here we've got our lower wing surface with some internal landing gear bay details. Again, the level of detail on this is really quite nice. Again, quite crisp. We do have some weird flow sort of marks in the plastic, but I don't think they'll be visible once this kit is built and painted. Our engine looks pretty nice as well. Details on that are fairly acceptable for this kind of scale. And then landing gear covers too. Yeah, it's a nice looking kit. It doesn't look overly complicated either. I know HobbyBoss are quite famous for relatively easy kits to build, so I'm hoping this will be, and it will go together like an absolute dream. And yeah, I think that's probably time to wrap that up. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lightish grey plastic sprues, all molded to a really nice quality with some really nice details on there. We had 2 clear sprues, again molded to a really nice quality, a little bit of flash in a few places, but a mold seam down the center of this canopy here, which is a bit of a shame. We had 2 sheets of decals, which are printed to a pretty nice quality. There are a few little areas I picked up, but on the whole, I think it should apply to the model really nicely. The painting instructions are printed in full color, which is really nice to see. And the instructions here are nice and clear, perhaps a little busy, but if you just take a second to sit and read, it shouldn't be a problem. And then all of that comes contained within this beautifully illustrated box. I really like the artwork on this. It gives you something to sort of aim for, I think, if you could try and replicate this scene. But yeah, I think I'm going to go for the French version. I did actually pick up a extra acrylics glossy blue to do this kit with, and I have even spent a little bit of extra money and gone and got myself a canopy mask, so I don't have to mess about. These should be cut to the right size already. I think there might even be ones for wheels in there as well, so that should help make things a little bit easier. I'm not planning on doing like too much with this kit. I think it'll just be a quick build, and then it's one color all over, transfers on, and then call it a day. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with this. We looked at the copyright date over here. That was 2017. So what I can tell from 2017, this may have been like a production from that period, but that's not a tooling date. It's actually a little bit older. It was originally tooled, as far as I can tell, in 2011, but it has been available in a number of different paint schemes and boxings since then. So I imagine if this has a copyright of 2017 on it, it was a later sort of production. I know it was a little bit tricky to find this particular kit. some sellers didn't really have it in stock. So if we were looking at price, it's difficult to ascertain an actual RRP, but from what I can tell online, most sellers are selling it for between £18 and £25 here in the UK, which isn't too bad of a price for a 1/48 kit. I actually got it sort of in the middle at £23.50, so not too bad for a 1/48 scale kit with the level of detail that we've seen and some pretty nice features. And again, that's not exactly breaking the bank, is it? Seeing as you can get smaller 1/72 scale kits for a little bit more from certain manufacturers. So yeah, I think this is really quite a cost-effective price. So no real complaints from me. But on that, I think it's probably time to leave this one here. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of my assessment and whether it was fair. And as always, a quick shout out to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel. A massive thanks to these guys on screen, and if you'd like to join them or support the channel in other ways, take a look at the links in the description. The best way to support the channel for free though is by subscribing with notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.